Good evening. An innocent woman has been stabbed by a stranger on Little Bourke Street in a random attack that shocked Australia.
A black mark on the Allen government tonight, with youth crime rates the highest they've been since records began.
A family has been left shattered after a teenage boy was killed in an unprovoked knife attack in Queensland.
There's a map of Australia we all carry around in our heads. It's a map of sprawling coastlines, of red desert, of bustling cities. And on that map, there's a little patch we call home. A place where the kids should be safe to play in the street. A place where you can walk to the shops without looking over your shoulder. That's the promise of Australia, isn't it? The promise of a safe, fair go for everyone. But what if I told you that map is a lie? What if there are places on that map, right here in our own backyard, where that promise has been broken? Places where your postcode determines your life expectancy, where stepping into the wrong suburb, wearing the wrong colours, can get you killed. This isn't a story about some war-torn country on the other side of the world. This is the story of Australia's no-go zones. The suburbs our leaders have abandoned, where a generation of young men are being raised on a diet of violence and despair, and where the police are losing control. Tonight, we're taking you inside Australia's most dangerous suburbs, the places the government doesn't want you to see. And we're asking the question, how did we let it get this bad? And let me be clear, the information you're about to hear is something the mainstream media is too afraid to touch. They'd rather pretend these places don't exist. But we don't back down. We are the resistance, exposing the truth and corruption that festers in the shadows. If you believe in what we do, if you've had a gutful of the lies, then join our Patreon. For the price of a cup of coffee, you can help us drag these mongrels into the light. The link is in the description. You are funding the real news. Let's start in the heart of the beast, southwest Sydney, postcode 2770, Mount Druitt. To outsiders, it's just a name on a map, but to those who live there and to the gangs that run its streets, it's a war zone. This isn't hyperbole. This is a place where your postcode is your gang, and rivalries are settled with fists, knives, and increasingly guns. The official numbers are terrifying. According to data from the New South Wales Bureau of Crime Statistics and Research, the violent crime rate in Mount Druitt is a staggering 4,925 incidents per 100,000 residents. Let me put that in perspective for you. That is 106% higher than the New South Wales average. It's 74% higher than the national average. 88% of suburbs in this country are safer than Mount Druitt. This is the breeding ground of the infamous postcode wars. You've got drill rap groups like the controversial 1-4 who come from Mount Druitt making music that glorifies this violence. Their lyrics are a window into a brutal reality, a world of territorial disputes where a kid from Penrith who wanders into Mount Druitt is seen as an enemy combatant. We're talking about teenagers, some as young as 15, getting their first arrest, seeing crime as the only viable career path. One local put it bluntly, they're more exposed to struggle and crime than kids in wealthier suburbs. Another talked about making a couple of grand a week from stealing and breaking and entering. This isn't a choice between a job at Macca's and a life of crime. For many, it's a choice between crime and starvation. The violence is real. In nearby St. Mary's, there were over 5,000 criminal incidents recorded last year. This is a full-blown crisis, a parallel society operating under its own brutal set of rules, right under the noses of our politicians in their safe, leafy suburbs. But if you think this is just a Sydney problem, you're dreaming. This cancer has spread across the nation. This isn't about one suburb, it's about a pattern of neglect and decay that's turning pockets of our country into no-go zones.
Stop this from happening in our little towns. We've had enough of things happening in our little towns.
Let's head south to the Garden State, Victoria. You'd think the most dangerous place would be some dodgy back alley. Nope. It's the Melbourne Central Business District, the very heart of the city. It has the highest crime rate in all of Victoria, with a mind-blowing 20,059 offences per 100,000 residents. A place that should be a shining beacon for tourism and culture has become a hotspot for crime. Now let's go north to Queensland. Welcome to Caboolture, just north of Brisbane, a place where crime isn't just high, it's growing. It jumped by almost 10% in a single year. Your chances of getting broken into there are 46% higher than the national average. This isn't a suburb in decline, it's a suburb in a nosedive. And what about South Australia? Say hello to Elizabeth in Adelaide, a place where the rate of break-ins isn't just higher than the average, it's an astronomical 360% higher than the South Australian average. Let that sink in. You are almost 4 times more likely to have your home invaded in Elizabeth than almost anywhere else in the state. The so-called City of Churches has its own circles of hell. From Sydney's west to the heart of Melbourne, from the suburbs of Brisbane to the streets of Adelaide, the story is the same. Pockets of Australia are being abandoned, and the people left behind are paying the price. And let's not forget the rest of Sydney's crime hotspots. Penrith recorded over 7,300 incidents last year. That's the highest volume of any Sydney suburb. Domestic violence there is up 5% in a single year. Blacktown isn't far behind with almost 7,000 incidents driven by property offences and violent assaults. Liverpool, Bankstown, Fairfield, the list goes on and on. These aren't isolated incidents, this is a pattern. Western Sydney has been systematically neglected, and the crime statistics are the proof. So how does a suburb become a no-go zone? It doesn't happen overnight. It's a slow, creeping death. It's a toxic cocktail of government neglect, economic despair, and social breakdown. And it's a recipe that's being perfected across Australia.
Get out!
Get out of there! Come on, go get!
Got you on camera!
You're all on camera, mate, eh?
First, you rip out the economic heart of a community. You let the jobs disappear. You get high unemployment, low-income households, and a generation of kids who see no future. In places like Inala in Brisbane or Broadmeadows in Melbourne, unemployment is sky high. When there's no opportunity, crime starts to look like the only option. Second, you let the infrastructure crumble. You have a shortage of decent housing, you let the public transport system become a joke, trapping people in their own suburb, you underfund the schools, the community centres, the very things that hold a society together. You create a physical environment that screams, nobody cares about you. Third, you get the social decay. The drug trade moves in. Domestic violence rates explode. In places like Walgett and Moree Plains in New South Wales, the rates of nighttime domestic violence are the highest in the state. Gangs and postcode wars take root, offering a sense of belonging and identity that the community can no longer provide. Violence becomes the language of the streets. This is the trifecta of failure. Economic failure, infrastructure failure, social failure. It's not rocket science. It's what happens when you systematically abandon entire communities. You create a vacuum. And I can tell you what fills it. Crime, violence, and despair. These aren't just dangerous suburbs, they are forgotten suburbs. And the politicians who created this mess are nowhere to be seen. And the trends, they're getting worse, not better. According to the latest New South Wales Bureau of Crime Statistics report from March 2025, violent offences across New South Wales are up 3.2% year on year. Property offences up 2.7%. Domestic violence-related assault up 5%. Retail theft has jumped 8.8% over just 2 years. This isn't a blip. This is a crisis that's accelerating. And while a few categories like break-and-enter and motor vehicle theft have seen modest declines, the overall picture is clear. Crime is surging, and the government is asleep at the wheel. And here's the most outrageous part of it all. While these suburbs burn, the rest of Australia is told a comforting lie. We're told that Sydney is the 5th safest city on the entire planet. What a load of garbage. That's a slap in the face to every person who has to live in fear in Mount Druitt or Blacktown. It's a tale of two Australias. In one Australia, you have the leafy eastern suburbs of Sydney, the affluent neighbourhoods of Melbourne, where crime is low and property prices are high. In this Australia, the biggest worry is whether your favourite cafe has run out of almond milk. But in the other Australia, the one we've been talking about tonight, the biggest worry is whether your kid will come home from school without being stabbed, whether your car will still be there in the morning, whether a stray bullet will come through your window. This is the reality of a nation divided by postcode, a nation where your address determines your access to safety, to opportunity, to a decent life. This isn't a fair go. This is a national disgrace. The fact that a city can be ranked one of the safest in the world while entire suburbs within it are effectively no-go zones is the ultimate indictment of our political class. They have created a system of geographic apartheid. They've drawn lines on a map, and if you live on the wrong side of that line, you're on your own. The police are overwhelmed, the community services are gutted, and you are left to fend for yourself in a war you didn't start. This isn't just about crime statistics. This is about the very soul of our nation. Are we one country, or are we just a collection of postcodes, some safe, some sacrificed? The answer is becoming clearer every single day, and it's an answer we should all be ashamed of. But let's be clear about something. This isn't about demonizing the people who live in these suburbs. Behind every crime statistic is a human story. There are families in Mount Druitt who are working 3 jobs to keep their kids out of trouble. There are community groups in Elizabeth fighting tooth and nail to create safe spaces for young people. There are residents in Caboolture who refuse to give up on their community despite everything. These are resilient, hard-working Australians who deserve better. They deserve the same opportunities, the same safety, the same future as everyone else. But they've been abandoned by a political class that has written them off. And that is the real crime here. So the next time a politician tells you how safe Australia is, ask them if they've ever walked through Mount Druitt at night. Ask them if they've spoken to the families in Elizabeth who have been broken into for the 5th time. Ask them if they give a damn about the other Australia, because right now, it looks like they don't. If you're as outraged as we are, then you know what to do. Join our Patreon. Help us keep fighting. We can't let them get away with this. We have to be the voice for the forgotten Australians. The link is below. To see the latest Australian crisis, click this video here.